Hollie, pot doesn't kill, so it's not a problem. I'm going to keep smoking pot. You're a pastor. What do you got? Okay, I'm going to go to the next part. This is where he responded, and I want you guys to respond to this too. He said his response to that was actually nice. I mean, I felt like he was going to come combative at me, and I'm like, oh boy, I didn't mean to stir up a hornet's nest, and I'll apologize if it gets there. But he says, pot doesn't kill you, almost makes sense. Okay, hold on, let me look at it. Pot doesn't kill, and he said, you almost make sense. Thank you for your opinion. So here's what he's doing. He's saying that justification for him to smoke pot and it be part of his alcoholic recovery is that it doesn't kill. Zach, what do you got?
As we talked in the last video, literal substance recovery is not the only source of addiction there is. I think people get skewed when we hear the word addiction. That's like a trigger word. Because if I go out and say addiction out in the streets, everyone thinks alcohol, meth, heroin, marijuana, maybe, but cigarettes. But no one immediately usually thinks Netflix, sugar, coffee, my phone, Facebook, and all the stuff, because just like what Hollie is saying, if we're in kind of like what I said in the last video, we're all recovering, we're all trying to fill a void, and it's just each person's going to fill it differently. Sure. And when we're filling that with something other than the one thing that can actually fill that, which we know and we've experienced here is Jesus Christ, then that just becomes honestly an addiction. It becomes a stronghold. It becomes a place where you don't feel like you have power over. And kind of like what we see, and I've seen it all the time, people justify it. They say, well, it doesn't hurt me. It never hurt anybody else. Yeah. A bunch of other justifications. And just having the justification of that it doesn't kill me, I mean, like, I guess you could say it with every single drug out there because it doesn't kill you till it does. Yeah.
Hollie, pot doesn't kill, so it's not a problem. I'm going to keep smoking pot. You're a pastor. What do you got?
Well, first I just want to say kudos to him for how he responded.
Yeah,
I think
that's true.
That is awesome. The way he responded
it is
without being combative, whether it was the pot, it doesn't matter. He responded. He's responded well. So kudos to him. But the same thing here kind of goes with. I immediately thought of what you that saying that says that there's always some are sicker than others, right? So it's just comparison. Well, if my addiction doesn't look like yours, then mine's better. Or if there's this comparison, we're comparing to people who are just as broken as we are. Yeah. So just because we manifest it differently doesn't mean anything.
Good.
Our coping mechanisms, whatever they may be, we can justify anything if we don't truly want to be free. But comparison is actually going to be our worst enemy. So if we compare and say, well, it's doesn't kill me, it's not as bad as heroin, it's still an addiction. It's still a place where you're reliant on a substance that is not who you are, and it will alter who you are even to the slightest degree. Even if some people are like, well, I'm just full of anxiety, so I need to smoke some pot and then it helps me settle. Well, the reality is that you weren't designed to be anxious, but in that moment, if it's actually altering you to calmness, it's altering you.
Gotcha.
And so there's still a space there. If we can compare with others and say, well, it's not as bad as that, or it's not as bad as that. Yeah, no, it still has you in its grip.
Yeah. So my next response in there was kind of long, so I'm just going to paraphrase it. But basically, I tried to use the logic. I wanted to connect. I wanted to have a good conversation. And so I brought it in, and I brought a whole nother thing up. And I talked about porn. I said, okay, porn doesn't kill anybody. But wouldn't we agree that could be an addiction? And that let me look at this real quick. Because I feel bad about this one. I shouldn't have said this either. But basically, I said that pornography is an addiction. It doesn't hurt anybody, it doesn't kill anybody. But we would have to admit that that's a problem. And then he responded with this: addiction is continuing. Okay, pay attention to these words. Here's his definition of addiction: addiction is continuing a compulsive behavior despite negative consequences, as almost an entirety. But then he said the vast majority of effects pot has on my life are positive. Mushrooms too. I'm happy and healthy. I guess this is a red pill, blue pill moment. and then before that he said pornography has its place too. What do you say, Zach? Because you're like the porn guy. What do you think? If somebody says, "Hey, I'm not smoking pot, I'm not doing heroin, or I'm not drinking alcohol, I'm not doing heroin, pornogaphy's okay in my life."
So I think this is where you find the beautiful area where, kind of like we talked about last week, the step we were on was we became aware. Sorry, wow. The higher power can restore sanity. That part. This is where we find that, because I've never been in a recovery group where you have a guy that's just not coming clean off of meth or heroin, alcohol, that goes, that's like I'm coming clean off of this, but thank God I never did porn, because I just could never draw myself to go there. It's always it's always brought up as, man, I didn't realize porn was an issue, because it doesn't have an effect on me, right? Because what's happening here, it's the same thing what he's experiencing with marijuana. He's not noticing the actual effect it has on his life. And when I say actual, I mean like spiritual. Like there is an absolute spiritual. Now, when we say spiritual, that may be a turnoff word, but literally we're mostly spirit. And so when we alter that, when that is a consequence, you may not see that in your physical life, and he may never see that. And there's a lot of people out there that may never see what that has an effect on life until they're not on it anymore. Then they're like, whoa, I didn't realize what I was missing out on. You know what I mean? And so what's happening is it's the normalization of, well, I'm not seeing an effect, so it must be okay. Because, kind of like what I said a little bit ago, all of a sudden now we're making this huge divide that the only things that are bad for you are things that will literally kill you. Yeah. And so I'm like, well, that we know that's not true. And so just because you don't feel like you have lasting effects of that in your body doesn't mean it's good for you. There's many alcoholics out there that doctors have told them, don't go off alcohol, because if you do it, you'll actually die. Yes. And what do you think they're going to make the argument? Well, alcohol is actually really good for me. Yeah. No, they're not. It's actually because you've gone so far in the addiction, your body won't make it.
You can go to detox to do that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just saying, like, there's an awareness of more than just seeing your repercussions. Yeah. Like, he's not using marijuana and then blacking out and doing crazy things. It's I'm aware and conscious of what I'm doing. It's the same thing with pornography. Yeah. Doesn't mean it's good for you.
Holly, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that there is getting to walk through my own recovery, walking others through recovery. There is a mindset that says I'm better than I was, therefore this is as good as it gets.
That's really good.
And that is kind of a really sad mentality, because it can be so much better than you ever dreamed. And you are made for so much more. And so if we settle for better than it was, we're actually not getting life to the full. We're actually not getting to experience joy to the full. We will never experience being loved to the full. Like all the things we were created for and the things we actually desire and crave, we'll actually never actually get to receive to the full. And so as long as we're still a slave to something, we're still not having life to the full. And Jesus says, I came to give life and life to the full. And most people might not get that part. Yeah. But there is a place where you actually can have peace and joy and contentment and excitement for the next day, for the next moment, without having to use a thing. Sure. Yeah. and the thought of like not having to run to these coping mechanisms, is it going to kill you right now? No, but it still has you in its stronghold. It still has a grip on you, whether it be pornography, whether it be TV, whatever we're going to find relief and release from where our mind is stuck at.
Gotcha.
Unless it's through Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It's a stronghold.
So what would you say? Because we'll have a lot of listeners and people that watch this they've tuned in because they connect with us. They haven't given their life to Christ yet. I'm not even sure that they might consider themselves to be atheists. Are there things that you would say? I want to give advice or point you in this direction that maybe there are things that you believe will lead them ultimately, but they're just not ready to receive Christ. What are the next steps they can do to start to think more widely in their recovery, as opposed to specifically, hey, I'm free from alcohol, it doesn't matter what else I'm doing? What would you say to somebody who's not confessing Christ as their higher power? Honestly,
I would say get in connection with people who have either longer clean time or advanced, because inside of relationship is healing. Inside of relationship is healing, and healing comes through Jesus. And if you encounter real relationship that's non-judgmental, that actually is just going to stand with you through thick and thin, as you, like I said, it's not about perfection, it's about the progress, through the progression, no matter if you fail or not, you will have encountered just a piece of who God is.
Yeah, I believe that too. I actually joined AA, and it was hard enough. We talked about it in the last video. It was hard enough for me to even walk in the door of the AA because they were at churches. I wouldn't have had as big of a problem as if it was just like a community building.
It's true.
But I literally was like, I don't want to walk in here. But just by getting connected and being a part of a group of men that were not Christians, maybe one of them was, but I wasn't, certainly. And being connected with them for about 6 months, that really, I guess, just fostered a good relational atmosphere. Mm-hmm. So here's the good news. I'm gonna tell you guys what I said. I'm the nice guy at the end. I said it like this, and the Lord, I really felt Him just saying, okay, you kind of redeemed yourself, if you will. I said, okay, because again, we're being anonymous, so I'm not going to say his name, but thank you for your interacting. We do disagree, but if you are healthy and happy, who am I to judge? That was hard to write. I wish you all the best and pray that God works all things for His glory in one way or another. So if you're watching this, and to the audience, I want to make sure that we do understand that this segment was not meant to single out an individual person. I wanted to use this and show our other guests on the show this, because I showed them the clip, and so they were able to see the interaction that you guys only got to hear anonymously. And this is just a direction recovery's going, and I'm afraid, and my heart is going out to people that would otherwise find victory, and they're going to find another stumbling block. And so that's going to complete this segment. Thank you for checking out this clip from the Position Recovery Podcast. The entire podcast is available on our other channel. There's a link in the description box below, so you can go check it out. The full audio program is available on your favorite podcast platforms like Spotify, Pandora, and Google Podcasts. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Finally, if you'd like access to exclusive members-only content, or maybe you just want to support us in what we're doing financially, head on over to patreon.com/position, where there are a variety of giving levels and one that is perfect for your budget. It's always awesome hanging out with you guys. And remember, many are called, but you are positioned.